adding Drew, Grant. Stop adding your friends.
Who the fuck is Drew?
I don't know.
We're live.
You drew something, or you added
We're
Drew?
live.
Oh, we are?
Fine.
Oh,
We're not actually live.
Live.
Like, we don't start for 5 minutes.
Yeah.
so wait,
This
we go.
is
Yeah.
the pregame.
We only go live in a few minutes.
No,
I'd
we're
just
live
like
right
to
now.
point out to everyone that Will has been sniffing glue, and he's very fucked up right now.
Huffing, I believe they call it.
Puffing, industrial inhalants.
Yes. Speaking of industrial, your house looks like you're an awful industrious person. Do you work for the Bush family? Are you in Kenny Bunkport, man? I don't know why.
Why do you have to begin every show with some reference to Kenny Bunkport?
I don't know, because that's what your house looks like it's at. Look at that house.
I
It's all
don't
Martha's
live in
Vineyard.
that esteemed place. I live in
That's the second house,
It
actually.
says we're live right now, you assholes.
Yeah. Is that what he said? Oh, we're live right now.
We're live.
All right, I'll kick it off. This is episode...
We're live?
Yeah, we're live. We're live. You still have salt and pepper hair. We're live. This is episode 15 or 16 of Beer and Bastards. There's so many of them now because we've just really exploded over the last few weeks, and none of it is due to Matt Palumbo's haircut. We're here to, we have our regular guests back. Kevin Ryan's back from his hiatus. Apparently he was gone for a little while, something about his mortgage payments being extremely high at his palatial estate in Kenny Bunkport, Maine, and he needed to earn a few more dollars, but Kevin is the purveyor of Unbiased America.
I'd like to say hi to everyone first of all.
There.
Hello.
Now, is that an Emmy?
Oh, this? Yes, it is. Thanks for noticing.
Yeah. No, well, now I see how you afford that house. Or either that or you steal a lot of things from other people and they just so happen to be an Emmy winner, which I'm going to go with the latter.
I was awarded this Emmy by the computer people who like our show.
Oh, yeah. Cool. So it's all of our Emmys, so we all split it.
No, just says my name on it.
Really?
Yeah, but I'd like to thank the Academy. Anyway.
I'd like to thank Matt Palumbo for turning Unbiased America into a page people actually want to follow.
That's good. He didn't even read that off his script. He just came up with that.
And then, of course, we have the famous Michael Lee from Being Liberal Logic and Being Classically Liberal and Addicting If No, which is an awesome website. And if you're curious, inbox Being Liberally Liberal. What is it again? Being Liberal Logic, and make him an offer. We also have Grant Phillips from The Modern Libertarian. We Are Capitalists, The Libertarian Republic. LBGT. What else are you part of?
Especially the T.
The Police Benevolence Society. Yes.
The Koch Brothers Foundation.
Koch Brothers Foundation, Young Republicans. Oh, and we have our guest who's with us here too, who is who I'll introduce after the famous Matt Palumbo. Are you there, Robin?
I'm here. How you
Hello,
doing?
Robin. Good. How you doing? I'm just doing introductions. I'm getting to Matt Palumbo, who's written 2 books.
Palumbo, I believe it was.
Matt, what's the name of your 2 books again? I can't remember.
Oh, you really can't remember, Will?
No, I remember. One is The Conscience of a Young Conservative, which I actually have. I have it right here. I keep it in my bathroom. See that?
You got to quote people again?
Yeah. And then In Defense of Being Classically Liberal, which is another excellent. They're both really good reads. They're better reads than Matt is a person. So I would advise you to actually buy his book rather than become his friend.
You butchered the name of the book, by the way. You completely butchered. It's not In Defense of Being Classically Liberal.
It isn't? What is it?
In Defense of Classical Liberalism.
Oh.
Like 5 times on the show. I just figured I'd keep letting you say it. So.
And then we have our guest, our special guest. Is it Robert Koerner?
Oh my God.
That's not it. Koerner?
The name is Robin.
I'm never going to be able to say it with the tilde over the I.
You're the red Democrat, right?
So how do I say your name?
I thought you said Robert, but it's Robin.
No, Robin. I said Robin.
Oh, well then, my bad. I apologize.
And is your last name, is it Koerner or Koerner?
Koerner, actually. It rhymes with Turner, so you got that.
Koerner. I got it right. I got it right the first time, you see?
Good job. Koerner
Yeah. Everyone was saying before you got on that I wouldn't say your name right, but I did. All right, and you run the Blue Republican, the Facebook page, correct? And can you give us a little background on how you started the Blue Republican? I'm interested in that.
Okay,
Really.
well, it's more than a Facebook page. I mean, it's a lot more than that.
Right.
Are we going, by the way? Are we started?
We're on, man. Go ahead.
Cool. So it was in 2011, and I was given this kind of gig by accident to write on the Huffington Post, which obviously has a center and left audience.
I never noticed. I haven't noticed that.
And I had never been interested in politics until about 2010, when I discovered the whole kind of liberty canon, as it were. And so I remembered what it was like to be one of those liberals by default, because as kind of an educated middle-class kid who didn't really care about politics, I was just liberal by default. And I still, I know that language. Those are my friends. And so I had this opportunity to write on the Huffington Post, and I thought, I'll give this a go. I will try and put my new kind of political convictions, and specifically my support of Ron Paul, in a language that the readers of the Huffington Post, mostly Obama supporters, would understand. And so I did that. It was July 2011.
Let me stop you for a second, Robin. Hold on. So were you a Ron Paul supporter when you were a liberal, or is this after? Like after?
Well, I mean, we're kind of stuck with labels there, right? I got interested in politics in as much as I got interested in liberty and classical liberalism.
Okay.
And the American Constitution, which I have on the wall behind me, etc., right? So this was kind of an awakening for me. As I say, starting really in 2010, and then I had this gig to write in 2011. So in many ways, I guess some people would put me in that bleeding heart libertarian box, maybe. But I think the most powerful arguments for liberty are basically consequentialist. They're basically empirical. And I'm basically an empiricist, right? So if I have an ideology that I like the sound of that kind of hangs together, but the data aren't there, I'm open-minded. I'll drop the ideology. But so in some ways, given that the data that I'm going to be looking at are about we shouldn't be as scared of phrases like economic justice and social justice. We are scared of them, but we shouldn't give them away to the left.
Right.
If we're right, what we believe is in line with what people mean when they use these terms. So I'm concerned about those things, right? I am not a libertarian dogmatist, and to me that's a contradiction in terms.
Right. No, I agree with you there. So are you primarily, who are the people you're affecting? Are they liberals? Are they libertarians? How are you infiltrating yourself into changing people's minds? Is it mostly, are you trying to get libertarians to be more undogmatic, or are you trying to sway American liberals into becoming libertarian?
Okay, so you said either or. It's both and. Those two things are basically the pillars of my work, right? I'm very good at selling. I mean, I don't want to blow my own trumpet, but I mean that article on the Huffington Post. And by the way, that was the article in 2011 that coined the term Blue Republican, which I have on a T-shirt. That went viral, and we were right up until the day he was denied at the convention, the biggest coalition for Ron Paul. The biggest self-identified coalition for Ron Paul in 2012 was a bunch of Huffington Post reading liberals. I can do that, but also because I obviously am passionate about what we believe in. The stuff on the wall behind me, and the stuff that a lot of you guys write about and talk about and care about. I want us as a movement to really embrace our moment and be effective in this moment, which means we have to be better at sales and marketing. So I teach other people how to do this because I want libertarians to be able to understand their audiences rather than just kind of foist this worldview on people who aren't really ready to accept it yet.
Right.
How do we make people ready to accept it? What's the way in? So yeah, I deal with that a lot.
And what specifically got you, what was the allure with Ron Paul? Was it his idea of the free market, or was it his foreign policy, domestic policy or foreign policy? What really drove you to admire Ron Paul?
That's a good question. I think actually the hook was discovering, just through reading, was actually discovering about the nature of money and, and stumbling across a Peter Schiff video. And that was kind of, I know it was a Peter Schiff video that got me to Google the word libertarianism. and and then look into that, discover that philosophy. I actually went Peter Schiff, Austrian economics, libertarianism, but the philosophy of libertarianism, but the political philosophy of that, and I hate the label, but I'm using it as a shorthand, right? Because we know what we mean with that word. Really, it resonated with my personality, with, if you like, you might say my spirituality, my metaphysics, my belief that the human nature, which I have been reading about for years, is fundamentally about choice and being free. And then here was a political ideology that kind of provided a context for people to live their true selves, live their true lives. So it kind of resonated with me. I think I'm most offended by the injustices that are done in the form of taking down basic civil liberties. And and obviously killing innocent children in foreign lands comes under that. So, you mentioned foreign policy. Yeah, that's a big one. I mean, that's a big one. Could I look into the eye of a mother of a young Iraqi kid and say, well, we really had to do this? No, I can't justify that. So, yeah, that's a big one.
Okay, I see. Now, you said and we talk about this a lot in the show, is message, how to get the message out there. Social justice to me is the free market. I still haven't heard anybody give me a cogent definition of what social justice is. As is this some kind of cosmic justice? I have no idea what that means. But I think part of it is how politicians, they just really will say anything that will get them elected rather than actually talk about the free market and the benefits thereof. Moreover, if people are engaging in a free market, that gives politicians less power over the body politic. But how do you get the message to? And I don't know, maybe you're changing liberal minds. I'm trying to. It's very difficult. Doesn't matter how much, and the other guys will attest. Doesn't matter how much empirical data you give them. It's hard to change their minds.
Well, let's be fair. It's hard to change anybody's minds. And
True.
I know a lot of libertarians with whom I broadly agree, who just don't know as much as they think they know on certain things.
No doubt.
If I can change their minds too, right? I mean, this is human nature, right?
Right.
So, and obviously, if you're doing political persuasion, which is what we're talking about, what we're really dealing with is human nature, we're dealing with psychology. And people come to conclusions emotionally. And I mean, when I say that, that's not just a hand-waving thing. You can stick people to an MRI and actually watch the parts of their brain that light up when they make a decision about something or change their mind about something. Right? The changing of a mind is essentially an emotional experience, and then we post hoc rationalize our position. But to your question specifically, the politics of the left are the politics of good intention. That's critical to understand. And if you're going to change anybody's mind, you have to acknowledge and show them that you understand where they're at now, because you're going to take them on a journey from where they are now to wherever you want to take them. So the only way they're going to come with you is if they feel that you understand them enough that they can identify with you, and I use that word advisedly because all politics essentially are the politics of identity, right? Can I imagine what it feels like to see the world through your eyes? Can I trust you because you care about the same things? So when you're talking about persuading liberals, the first thing you have to do is establish the common ground on good intention. Okay? Right. So you acknowledge the intention, and you say that you share those same basic moral goals. So that's a huge thing.
I agree with you. I mean, let me get the other guys in here. I agree with you that it's about intentions, but when I tell, and I know that the other guys do this, I know all of the guys write about this, minimum wage laws, public schooling, and how this harms minorities, inner city communities, and so on and so forth. And I say, look, I don't want people to be priced out of a job. I want them to be able to get a job, get skills. I think this is horrible that we have somebody, some distant third party in D.C. or in whatever their state capital is, or their city council, telling them, you know, how much they can sell their labor for, and if they can't sell their labor at that price, they must accept government largesse. Grant, you write about this a lot, and I'll get to Maddie too. Do you feel that it's about intentions, that they care about the intentions? I mean, if you look at it through the minimum wage standpoint of public schooling, I know that you write about this a lot. Do you think that they grasp your intentions, or are we writing perhaps or talking too much about the policy implications, and that just minimum wage is bad, and we're not talking about, well, if we get rid of minimum wage, this will help far more people? Go ahead.
Well, I, for one, definitely write with the intention of helping people. You know, I don't advocate for things just because I think they're good for people they won't help, you know.
Right.
And I will say that I know that I put out a good article when most of the people that are getting upset about it are just saying, like, you know, you don't care about these people, or, you know, you don't understand what's really going on, or anything like that. So I think that people do have their intentions, but they want to ignore what my intentions are, regardless of how compassionately I present the case, or how I sort of compare the results of their policy, like, let's say, minimum wage, to, let's say, not minimum wage. I still think they take it. I've seen it, especially from the left. I'll say more so from the left. There are some things that get the right going a lot about it, but they take it almost personally. Like, I'm trying to help someone else gain because I don't care about the person that I'm supposedly hurting by advocating for this one position. So I think it's more they take it personally than they do ideologically, which is a big difference. If someone takes something ideologically, it's a lot easier to change their mind.
But again, that speaks, I mean, I completely agree with that, and that speaks exactly to what I was saying. Right. And this is what I mean by, at some level, all politics, the politics of identity. You know, how do, taking it personally is about, it's an immediate reaction, right? It's a defensive reaction. And as I say, the people don't come to their political conclusions through logic, right? They retrofit logical arguments.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
Right. So how do we make the emotional connection? I mean, I agree with everything said. For example, I mean, let's give a positive example. This is why I think, no, actually, you know, let's back up another level. There's a huge difference between saying, I like the free market and I like capitalism, and therefore, and if we could do this, if we could have a society, an economy built on these principles, there would be fewer poor people. Right. There's a whole world of difference between that and saying, I want to see fewer poor people, blah, 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 blah. Therefore, one of the things I'm interested in is making the market free. And let me tell you about the principle of subjective value, right? Let me talk to you in a way that acknowledges all the things that you also hate about cronyism, about the unfairness of the market. The thing that unites people across political ideologies and that can break through that emotional defensive response is a human sense of justice. So if you can start to speak to that, the sense of justice is really human. You don't have to have any ideology to feel that or experience it. So if you can tap that using language and issues that are not touch papers for ideological divides, and the minimum wage is obviously a touch paper for an ideological divide, then you can start to bridge that gap of what is essentially identity. If you have 20 minutes to argue about the minimum wage, spend the first 15 talking to that guy you're talking to find out exactly what he cares about, why he cares about it.
I think that's a great point. That's a great point.
Back that you understand him. Yeah, and then maybe for the last 5 minutes you'll have a chance of being heard.
Right. I mean, I've run into that problem a lot of times. People being, you're just too logical, or you're too educated, or I've heard that many times. And Kevin, you run a page on Bias America, and you do. I hate to say these things, but you do great work. It's always empirical data, and you take painstaking efforts to make sure you get things correct. Other than that, you're a hideous human being. And you don't tell us what you actually do for a living, and you live in a mansion. So you could just be part of the 1% or a shill for the Koch brothers. I try to get the information out of Matt Palumbo because I know for sure he works for the Koch brothers, but he won't tell me.
Also Monsanto.
Yes, but what do you think about Robin's points here? Do you think maybe we approach the problems too empirically rather than starting with what are your intentions? These are our intentions. We want to see more. Unskilled people employed, able to build their human capital in the marketplace and succeed in the private marketplace rather through government handouts.
Is it directed at me or at
Kevin,
right,
yeah. The Emmy winner. Is he still with us, or is he passed out drunk yet?
I'm sorry. As usual, I wasn't listening. But I just want to give a shout-out to a couple people. I'm really proud of this Emmy, and I'd like to thank Deborah. I'm thinking about you, baby, all you. And all praise due to Allah, first of all. And Robin Koerner, seriously. Dude, Robin, you sound like me, and I'm not even joking when I say that. The things that you have to say about minimum wage are absolutely true. It's all about good intentions, what are perceived as good intentions. And when you think about minimum wage, the first thought, and you don't have to be stupid to think that minimum wage works. Minimum wage sounds like something that's going to work. That's why it's almost universally accepted around the world by politicians. You know, economists, on the other hand, up until the late 90s, were pretty much universally in agreement that the minimum wage does not work. All it ends up doing is increasing unemployment. For the people at the lowest spectrum of the job pool, the people with the lowest amount of job skills, they end up being priced out of the market because you're telling companies that they can't hire you for a profit. They have to hire you at a loss. That's what the minimum wage does. Now, try telling that to somebody who only looks at that dollar figure. Well, what is it now? $7.25 in America, and they're like, I can't live at $7.25 an hour. Let's increase that, and therefore these people at Walmart or wherever making $7.25 an hour are going to make more. Guess what? It doesn't work like that. What ends up happening is those people making $7.25 get priced out of the market. Evidence has shown this from the first time people have started looking at minimum wage in the 1930s and 40s. Up till the 90s, economists were in almost universal agreement that the minimum wage doesn't work. In the 90s, somebody wrote there was a couple of papers written that basically said that there's no effect. The minimum wage does not affect unemployment. Now, gauging unemployment versus how much people are paid via the minimum wage is a difficult thing to do because not a lot of people make the minimum wage. But when you start looking at the numbers and you realize it's not easy to gauge, how many people are losing their jobs, people latch onto that. People on the left especially latch onto that and say, whoa, there you go. You can increase the minimum wage and people aren't going to lose their jobs. But that's beside the point. The real point is economists all know that it's called the law of supply, law of demand. You cannot increase something, the price of something, and end up increasing the demand for it. It doesn't happen. It's a law in economics.
Kevin, more specifically, when you post about this, and you do so, and you do quite a bit, what kind of responses do you get? Like let's say you show empirical data on minimum wage and how it harms those disadvantaged people. What kind of responses do you get, say, from the left?
Angry. And this is one thing, and I started a website or a Facebook page that I tried to draw in people on the left. And Robin, I tried to draw, like you said, I tried to draw in people who are not, conservative, are not libertarian. I tried to draw people from all over the ideological spectrum. And the one thing I learned is the people on the left are easily the ones most apt to cut off discussion. They're the ones most apt to flee from a debate if they see something they don't like. When you say minimum wage doesn't work, that's it. They leave the room. They don't want to hear it. So, like you said, you have to make common ground. You have to tell them my intentions are good. I care about the results of a policy, not the intentions.
But here's my point and Robin's point too, and I'm going to get to Matt Palumbo here in a second. Why do I have to explain to them that I have good intentions? Of course I have good intentions. I don't know many people out there that want to enact a policy with bad intentions.
Let me answer that. I can answer that question because it's a very good question.
Go ahead.
Okay. So look, if I'm of the left, then I believe that good policy is policy that realizes, that manifests, that concretizes my good intentions, right? Mm-hmm. Because I believe the making policy out of intention works. Now, therefore, good policy is the reflection of good intention. If that's what drives me, and that's my paradigm, then if you arrive at an opposing conclusion, working back, I was motivated by good, you must not be motivated by good. So I'm good, you must be bad. Now, if you talk to people on the right, they don't have that assumption about how policy works, right?
Right.
Have you noticed that your lefty friends think that your righty friends are bad, but your righty friends think that your lefty friends are stupid, not bad. It's not symmetrical, right? So you have to understand. I mean, there's actually even, you can go deeper to this, because what you're really dealing with is moral psychology here, but we can, I mean, we can.
No, you're right, because I have all my leftist friends think I'm this. I mean, if I talk to them about these things, I'm evil. They'll hurl insults at me, and the thing I'm thinking in my head is, man, this guy really wants to help, and they're concerned, but just has no clue what the hell they're talking about.
And you know what? Also, the left, one of the teams, any kind of team, sacralizes something, and the left tend to sacralize victim groups. So when you're discussing something that's going to have a direct effect on someone in a victim group, you know, you're going to, let's say there's a $10 minimum wage and you're saying get rid of it, and that guy earning $10 is going to earn $8, you're touching what they sacralize.
Right.
That's always the last place you want to begin.
That's right. Now, Matt, you write a lot, and you write logical pieces. I mean, you did a piece on Larry Summers at the Mises Institute there. Was that where you're at now? Was that where you write at like 4,000 different places?
Yeah, exactly 4,000.
Exactly, right on the nose. It's not 3,998.
No.
Okay. But you write a lot, and you use a lot of empirical data. You're not just writing. You're not writing fluff pieces. You're not writing, these emotional appeals. What kind of responses do you get on your pieces from, say, the left? Responses too from some libertarians, and we'll get into them later because they're not. I mean, don't even get me started on them. But what kind of responses do you get when you give these empirical arguments showing that, or debunking a lot of these liberal leftist myths?
All right, so before I answer that, I see Julie Borowski tweeted a link to our show. So, Julie, if you're watching this, I love you. Secondly, I honestly have not gotten much of a response from the left. I think actually the most popular piece I ever wrote was the one about Carl Gibson's Opposite of America, that meme from US Uncut.
Yeah.
And honestly, there was like a progressive radio show that discussed that on their show, and he seemed to be impressed by most of the research I did. He agreed with most of the points I made, and he actually invited me on the show after that. So I, for the most part, gotten a positive reaction from a lot of liberals and my liberal friends.
Do you think it changed their minds?
Probably not. Actually, well, one of the criticisms I get from my liberal friends is that actually, if you look at my the Amazon page for my books, one of the critical reviews was that I lack emotional conviction and I'm too logical. So, I mean, I don't think being too logical.
That's just how I felt. I'm sorry. That's how I felt. I wrote what I felt. I apologize for that.
And another, Mike, you debunk a lot of liberal myths, or you make a ton of fun of them, and it's pretty hilarious, and you're good at it. And I know you have a lot to say probably on this issue. And I think one of our first shows was the question of, what do you think is more dangerous? Do you think it's political ignorance or economic ignorance? And I'm not so sure so much of it's ignorance anymore as it is just this willful ignorance. I feel this way. I don't care what you show me. Maybe it appeals to authority. What do you think about the whole ordeal, Mike? And what kind of responses do you get when you provide? You provide excellent arguments, very logical. I hate you, and you're ugly, but you write really well, and you provide great arguments. What do you think? What kind of responses do you get? Go ahead.
Well, obviously, my responses from liberals, since I mostly, take stabs at their pages that they love, is really, really negative. And to Robin's point, I don't do a very good job at the thing that he wants us to improve upon, because I basically just nail their points and I don't empathize with them enough. And I think he makes a great point about this, and that how they arrive at their positions is an emotional, and they take the intentions and they hold the intentions on the pedestal, and if they don't think you have the same intentions as them, then they just ignore you. There's actually a study done where liberals were more likely to delete people on Facebook who had opposing political views than conservatives. I think that speaks a lot to what Robin said, and I think he makes a great point about emphasizing that you understand the issue that they have. You understand that we all want the best for poor people. We all want the best for low-wage workers, and emphasizing with them. And I think one thing that needs to be mentioned here is I think Rand Paul has really started to do a great job with this, with some of the Republican outreach centers that he's opened, and talking directly with these people about the policies. Like, look, I'm in your corner here. These policies have failed you guys, and let me tell you why. I want the best for you, and these policies have failed you. And I think Rand Paul is doing better on that than any Republican I've seen in a long time, because he's not confrontational. He's not saying, well, we got to wipe all these policies out. He says, hey, let me talk to you about these policies. I understand your frustration, and I want to be here for you, and I want to understand. I want you guys to tell me the problem, and I want to tell you why these policies that you've been voting for aren't working for you. So I think Robin makes some fantastic points about reaching out to a liberal audience. I think he hit it on the head.
Now, to that point too, I see, and because the liberals have created this atmosphere, it's like, oh, we need to know your intentions. It's like I see certainly a lot of Republican politicians coming out and apologizing before they say what they're for. Like I don't need to apologize for not supporting the minimum wage because I know it harms people, and I don't really care about your soft little gooey my puppy dog and ice cream intentions, while people are out there actually getting hurt by these obtuse policies that they put into place because they have a feeling in their belly. While people are out there and they don't even know that it's killing them. The public school system's a joke. The NEA is harming inner city students and the youth in this country at a greater clip than anybody. But don't mention anything about the teachers' unions. You know what I mean? That big boogeyman. The left loves the teachers' unions. But then they're out there saying, oh, minimum wage helps unskilled workers. I don't understand it. It's like, how can they not piece that together? And why do I need to apologize for it? You know what I'm saying, Ron? That pisses me off.
Who says you have to apologize?
Because if I got to approach them like, oh, my intentions are that, I don't want anybody to get hurt, and why do I need? This is the whole reason I'm doing it, and I do all this research is because I don't want them to.
Because you're talking to people on the left, and they think they own it. That's why.
Yeah, why do they get away with it? Well, I don't want them to get away with it.
So they can't understand that if you really are like that, you are not one of them. That's the problem. Should it be that way? No.
No, you're right.
We're stuck with it? Yes. Okay. And the other thing is, you can kind of go one step even back. It's not just you saying that your intentions are good. It's you completely acknowledging with feeling, not just making a statement. Can you imagine? Can you feel what it's like to be moved in the way that they are to support what they support, right? Because what you're going to do is express that emotion authentically from feeling it, from empathy. Somebody brought up the word empathy, and it's hard. Empathizing with people who you know are wrong is hard, but it gets you so far, right? And if you get on Facebook and let's say talk about the minimum wage and you say, okay, I care about the same things you care, now here's my anti-minimum wage argument. That's a very different thing from having built a kind of a relationship, bridges that are based on shared vocabulary, shared positions in other parts of politics and economics. You have to find those over time. And I'm sorry it's this tough, but if you want to play this game, it's tough.
No, I totally get it, Robin, and your points are they're excellent, and I think everybody here would agree with you. So that's why I'm going to have to go the opposite way and say, look, if these guys want to crawl over the wall that liberals put up, that's totally fine. If you want to make a little door, you want to walk through, that's okay. I'll be smashing them down. I'm going to get in the trenches with these people. I'm going to go after them. I don't care. You know why? Because their intentions are misguided and they're wrong. And it's hurting people, and that pisses me off.
But you need to remember that you and I and everybody on this call are wrong about plenty of things too.
No doubt.
So but you get on the high horse because of what they have to be wrong about.
No. If I'm wrong and if I don't know an issue, I won't talk about it. But I literally study all day long because I don't want to be put in that position. I know what like if I'm arguing about minimum wage laws, I have the empirical data to back up my claims. I mean, if you hear Mike, he's always coming up with statistics. Kevin comes up with statistics. We all write. Maddie has statistics. Bran has. We all know this because we're steeped in this. And then I have somebody on the street that hasn't done a lick of work. Nothing. They heard Hillary Clinton say something stupid with that dopey smile on her face, and they take it as empirical evidence. And then they're going to tell me, like, I don't go to work one day. I miss out on $200 because I'm reading Thomas Sowell's Basic Economics for the 10th time. And then I got some guy on the street telling me how economics works. It kills me.
If you don't want to deal with those guys on the street who think they know stuff they don't, then you shouldn't be doing any politics at all, because that's most of politics.
No, I love doing it. I love doing it. But when I'm going to do it, I'm going to rip them to shreds. And you know what? Like you said, look, if it's an ideological, it's a feeling. So at first they're going to be hostile to you. But I know what they're going to do when they leave. They're going to be like, man, maybe I'm wrong. And they'll look at it later when things calm down.
Well,
I think,
you know what?
Mike, go ahead, Robin.
I'm sure that happens one time in 1,000. But, you know, one of the mottos of Blue Republicans' mottos, we have a couple. One of them is liberty with love, but another is winning supporters, not arguments. Because when I got into the...
Pretty good. I hate it, but it's good.
Yeah, I was on the receiving end of arguments by people I agree with, and by winning the arguments, these folks are guaranteeing that the person they're arguing with will never become a libertarian, will never be interested in free market economics. You've seen that, man. We've all seen it. So what do you want? What are you after?
Well, here's a little disclosure about me. I will go, if I'm talking to people even that have the same argument as me, and if they give me the argument and I feel that it's not sufficient or it's a really terrible argument, I'll be like, that's the worst argument for minimum wage I've ever heard in my life.
I do the same thing. Well, we got a load.
Yeah, so, I mean, it's like, yeah, I'm all about the argument because I think logically, if you have a better argument, someone should accept the conclusion. Mike, you were shaking your head. What experience do you have?
But they don't because they're human.
I know, but I mean, hell, I'm human. I mean, I'm an Italian Catholic kid from New York. I wear my emotions on my sleeve. But at some point, you have to think like, let me think about this logically rather than my gut feeling. Like I've had a lot of gut feelings that are incredibly incorrect. I don't. Kevin, what's your problem? You have your hand over your face.
We need a new host.
God, you see, I've already been fired by the old guy with salt and pepper hair.
No, but let me just
Go,
this
Kevin.
has been tried. This has been tried before. Do you know a president who tried the approach of being a compassionate conservative, and do you know how that worked out?
Yeah, it was George W. Bush.
That's right. How did it work out?
Here's the thing, Kevin. Compassionate conservatism. That's such a joke. That's apologizing. I'm apologizing for being a conservative. This is ridiculous. Do you
exactly.
know?
But how are you going to make friends if you're not, reaching out to the other side?
I don't want to make friends. I don't want friends, man. I want people to be better off. If that means I got to break some eggs to make an omelet, that's what I got to do.
You know what? People are a million times more likely to be persuaded by people they already trust and would call a friend than those who they do not.
Robin, you have great arguments. It's really bothering me.
It's the pipe that you send the persuasion down.
Yeah, those are good. No, Robin, I agree. You have great arguments. I'm just going to have to be the devil's advocate
You have
here.
good arguments, right? So you're going to agree with me now.
No, I agree with you, but my emotions are telling me no. And I think you have very bad intentions here.
You're liberal.
And you're just a liberal.
You're trying to shut me down so I don't turn liberal minds to the more free market classical liberal mindset. I get what you're trying to do here, Robert.
That's what that's my shtick right
You're
there.
infiltrating beer bastards now. You're good, You're really good. No, you have some good arguments. Grant, I know you have something to say here. You have more, like Maddie writes, and Maddie uses an empirical, logical tone. Sometimes we'll throw a jab in there. I notice you have a few more jabs in your writing. Whenever I read too.
I'm a gloves off kind of guy, especially when it comes to the people who are the source of the information. Like if I'm writing something about Elizabeth Warren or Bernie Sanders, they are just so incredibly dumb and just spew so much bullshit that it really gets on my nerves. And like I gotta take like I'm gonna put out a piece this week about Bernie Sanders. I take a few jabs at him. But as far as like talking to liberal people, it's like talking to a brick wall half the time.
I mean, you went to that.
And Will's right. You do gotta break a few eggs to make an omelet. Like I'm with you. You gotta shove it down your throat sometimes.
Well, I saw your post on.
Gets you so far.
Let me get another question, Grant. I saw you went to that movement in Philly is Baltimore or something. What was that last week?
Yeah, it was last Thursday.
And you were really, you were far more. You handled that with, more of a, and for lack of a better phrase, kid gloves than I would. You were talking about this one kid doing these dances. I would have been out there and been like, hey, doesn't this kid have to get to school? What the hell is this?
Well, it was 4:30, so I mean, it is.
Oh, it's 4:30. He should be doing his homework then, Grant. You know what I mean?
But in that environment, it was kind of a hostile environment, and I was just trying to keep an open mind and trying to reach, again, like we've been talking about, reaching a broader audience on an issue where I think libertarians can fit with liberals in a lot of different areas. Now, that's an issue where libertarians and liberals relate. Now, when it comes to economics, that's not the case, and sometimes you got to shove that shit down their throat.
Yeah.
But in issues of like race and the criminal justice system, I think libertarians and liberals have a lot more common ground.
Right. Back to Kevin and your Unbiased America page, and I think I didn't really think about it, but you and Blue Republican kind of have the same type of premise. I mean, sometimes your posts fire me up. You know what I mean? I'll read it and be like, I don't agree with this one. It's a good argument, great argument. I don't agree with it. So I do see some of your majority of your posts as being unbiased. It could be either just unbiased or that you're stupid. I'm leaning towards the latter rather than the former. But do you ever see yourself getting in the trenches? Do you see yourself getting aggravated? I mean, you're not like you're not using a lot of name calling. You're not getting dirty. When do you give up and why? When you're in a debate or if you're trying to convey a message.
Have you ever realized that you actually look like the Burger King?
Yes, I do.
You do. You look like the Burger. That's you know.
He looks like me. You mean?
No, I do. But this is where I started from. I don't want people to know my ideology. Now, everybody has ideologies. I don't want people to know what mine is, but it's pretty obvious at this point I'm not liberal. But I want liberal people to come to my page, and I want them to listen, and I want people to actually take me seriously no matter what ideology they come from. You can't. It doesn't work if the first thing you do is smack them down for being wrong. You know, you don't think the way I do, therefore you're wrong. The first thing you have to do is reach out and say, listen, I know you have good intentions. I know damn well. And this is absolutely true. And everybody here has to admit this. No matter what your ideology is, you could be a radical fucking Islamist. You have good intentions in your head, okay? Everybody in the world, except for a few psychos like Palumbo, have good intentions in their head. Once you understand that, getting along with people is much easier, Will. You might need some medication to actually have this work, Will, but for the rest of us, once you understand that everybody has good intentions, getting along with them is much easier.
All right, let me ask you a question, Kevin. Let me challenge you here. You're in a room with 10 radical Islamists, and you're in the Middle East. Are you going to come up to them and say, hey, you guys like cheeseburgers too? Hey, let's talk about puppies. I love puppies. Come on, man. Sometimes you got to, wars would never occur if this was the case.
No.
I don't think everybody has good intentions. Go, Robin. Go ahead.
Oh, fuck you! Assalamu alaikum!
Kevin, what would you do? Okay, let's go to Kevin. Answer that question because it's very hard to answer.
All praise due to Allah, first of all. Second of all, I just want to say that, no, obviously you can't speak the same language as somebody whose culture is completely different. I'm talking about people in the United States, people who are liberal versus conservative. You know, I mean,
I'm glad you cleared that up.
They have the right intentions. As long as you understand that, you can actually sit down and talk with a liberal, and you can find common ground.
Okay, I'll accept that. Did you know that you're actually your internet connection is so good because you make so much more money than I or anyone else in the entire world does, that I could see every pore on that face that looks like it went through a meat grinder, like a chicken breast?
That's why I use Biore before every one of these podcasts.
Yeah, that is incredible. Your Emmy, I can actually taste the plastic on that fake Emmy.
It's not. Oh, fuck you.
It is plastic.
Not.
Go ahead, Maddie.
I hear Kevin took a little jab at me while I was gone. Want to fill me in on that?
He did?
That's what Mike tells me.
You're a psycho.
Oh, did you? Yeah, you are a psychopath.
Okay.
Every time you leave and come back, your hair's a little bit more messed up. I want to know what it is that you're doing.
I don't even know, honestly.
Remember that one time you had the slumber party with your buddy? That was kind of weird. You guys were in like a blanket tent. Yeah. Mike, you had a piece out today on being classically liberal on banking. Bernie Sanders, and to an extent, what's that other gal's name? That crazy one there from the Northeast? Warren. Yeah, thanks.
Crazy broad.
Yeah, I can't think of her name. They always talk about these big corporate banks and these big banks and big business and so on and so forth. Don't they understand that the problem with that there's these big banks is that there's big government Can't they see the parallels there? Or do you think, and here's to Robin's point, I don't know if their intentions are good. I think that they're just demagogues to the core. I mean, was Juan Perón's intentions good? Was Mussolini, did he have good intentions? I don't know, but no, they didn't, Kevin. But what do you think? What do you think? Do you think they're just stupid or demagogues?
Oh, I think it's different when you're talking about Sanders and Warren. I wrote the piece on Bernie Sanders earlier today, and I think he's completely sincere and has great intentions. I just think he's wrong. I think it's kind of ironic. Warren's actually been beating this drum a little harder than Bernie Sanders, which is actually more ironic. Bernie Sanders voted for Dodd-Frank, and Dodd-Frank's what created a lot of these problems because the financial regulations caused the small banks to have to consolidate into the big banks.
Right.
So that actually created the problem of the big banks, and now Bernie Sanders says, oh, we have to break up the big banks. Well, why did you vote for that bill, Bernie? But I think he does have good intentions. I just think he's stupid. Now, Elizabeth Warren, on the other hand, I don't think she has good intentions. I just think that she wants a political career. Because Dodd-Frank created the Consumer Financial Protection
But you pointed out that Sanders supported all that.
He did. He supported all that, but I don't think he realizes. I don't think that he connects the dots.
He can't be this stupid, Mike.
I think he. But listen to this. Elizabeth Warren, and this is the thing. I think Sanders is a stupid. I just don't think he realizes. But Dodd-Frank created the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, and the first head of that bureau was Elizabeth Warren. She wrote the policies on this stuff. You know, people don't have a memory that spans more than 5 years. That's a problem because Elizabeth Warren wrote the book on this stuff. Her policies and her suggestions were what created this mess. And now she's beating the same drum as Bernie Sanders. You can't tell me she believes any of the stuff that comes out of her mouth. She was the one that headed this whole thing 5 years ago. So it's crazy. You vote for a bill that creates a problem, and then you blame the problem on capitalism. The problem is the bill you signed 5 years ago. If you regulate the banking industry too heavily, of course the small banks aren't going to be able to compete with the big banks.
But don't you see how advantageous that is to Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren? Let's keep blaming the market while we take over more of the power. Don't you see how that could be advantageous for government and their self-aggrandizement and for them to take more economic power from the individual, and along with economic power goes political power? I mean, I don't know. I question their intentions here. I'm not as convinced as you, and that's why I say I get down and dirty with these people, man. I would go at Sanders and be like, "You're a fool, an old fool."
I'm with you with Elizabeth Warren. I think Elizabeth Warren wants a political career. She wants more power, but I just think Bernie Sanders is just straight up stupid. I mean, I don't know any way to put it. I just think he doesn't know what he's talking about.
You're far too kind, Michael.
But, yeah, if that's kind. Elizabeth Warren, I agree with you. Sanders, I think, has great intentions. He's just completely misguided. Warren, I don't know what her intentions are.
Let me get to Robin on this one. I'm interested in Robin's take. I mean, Sanders and Warren, it's like, well, the problem here is big banks, big business. And what they don't understand is big business and the big banks, a lot of them, not all of them, have gotten big because of government policies that favor big banks and big business. So their answer is more government. Do you think their intentions are good, or do you think they're populists and demagogues? I mean, I think they're the latter, but perhaps you think they're the former. I don't know.
You know, I've hardly met anybody in my life, and I bet this is true for you, that actually wants to hurt people. And
Robin, I don't think they want to hurt people. I think they want power at our expense. I know a lot of people, politicians, that want power.
By my definition, if I am going to have something at the known expense of somebody else, that's hurting people. If I don't know and I want to persuade people, especially if I want to persuade people that have those misguided views, as I deem them to be misguided, right? I don't really want to be speculating out loud whether they're, if I know I don't have the evidence to answer the question conclusively, and when you're speaking to someone's intention and motivation, you almost never will have that evidence, right? I think all it can do is hurt you. Like, I think even, you mentioned Mussolini, right? Now, Mussolini is someone that most people would say, not a good guy. But if you were in a room with Mussolini, and you wanted to change his mind, and you wanted to do any good when this guy has his hands on power, you better find something you can agree about so that he wants to hear you.
I would agree with him on a few things. Trying to assassinate him is about the only thing I would agree with him on. Do you want
to do that? But do you want to do that with Sanders? Do you want to do
No.
What,
No.
assassinate him?
So my point stands, right?
I want to verbally assassinate Sanders.
I mean, the shtick is never make it personal. It's always a choice. It's always a choice.
Right.
To say, from my paradigm, your sincerity is very questionable. You're going to understand more and be more effective if you say, okay, until I conclusively have evidence to the contrary, I'm going to use your sincerity as part of my working hypothesis, and we'll go from there. Yeah, most of my friends are lefties, and they completely, because they are not read, they haven't experienced the things we've experienced, they think, yes, just because this regulation caused this problem, that just means the regulation could have been bad or insufficient or whatever.
But
and now we've seen this problem and we have more data. Let's do it better. That's not an unreasonable position.
But you're
But
right.
it's unreasonable.
Here's the premise of my position, though, and this has happened many times throughout history, is that those people you mentioned, your friends, and we all have them. All my friends are on the left. They don't look at these things, low information voters. Yeah, I love them. God bless their hearts. They know nothing about politics or economics. But I mean, it's kind of endearing, really. I almost I want to give them a hug. But the thing is, you get leaders. You get leaders that come out here, and it's like a marketplace, and there's a marketplace for these economic illiterates and political illiterates, people that haven't read the Constitution, and these people see this. Sanders knows this. He knows the arguments against his claims. He knows that most of the things he says is absolute, utter drivel. But he's going to go out there and...
I don't believe that he honestly... Because it's so much work. It's so much work to maintain a life where what you say and what you believe are different things. Most people don't live
I think every politician, left and right, does that. I think it's just a matter of degree, and I think
okay,
off the charts.
That's true, but you said something much stronger than that. You picked on a guy with a different point of view, and you said basically everything this guy says is drivel.
That's true.
Now look,
essentially everything.
Everything.
I think your point, correct me if I'm wrong, was that you were saying that he believes it to be drivel, that he knows.
Yes, and I get into a lot of debates with people on this. And from We Are Capitalists, Grant, Jason and I have talked about this many times. And I mean, I think there's this intellectual class that think they know better. And I think that he thinks that, I'm going to say whatever I can to get power because I can run this better than the free market can. So I'm going to say all this garbage. I know half of it's not true, and they're going to put me in power, and I'm going to fix everything. And they get this inflated head, and I think that's how a lot of these people get into power, and we end up paying for it. You know what I mean? With our political liberties and our economic liberties.
So if that's what you believe, and you don't want to assassinate him, how are you going to handle that situation?
I'm going to clobber him in debate.
Bury him.
I'm going to bury him, right? I mean, I'm going to go bury him.
But people like you have been saying that for ages, and he's still living. He's still going.
Because he's still president. Because these
people haven't been buried by Will yet.
Because there's people out there that don't care. There's apathy. Like I always say, apathy is the epidemic that's going to bring down this country. I don't know if it's so much economic illiteracy, but people are apathetic, and they hear Bernie Sanders say, "Oh, the rich people are too rich," and someone's going to go, "Oh, that sounds about right." This has happened after the free market crash, the Great Depression in 1929. This happened in Latin America. You had Getulio Vargas in Brazil, Juan Perón in Argentina. You had the fall of the Weimar Republic, Hitler doing the same things, Mussolini, the Bolsheviks. All these people coming out with the same rhetoric. This is happening again. I don't know.
Maybe that tells you something. Maybe that tells you that this is a common.
It is common. And if you think he doesn't know it, he knows it. He knows this. He knows what the rhetoric he's spewing. I hate that guy. Hate him. I hate Elizabeth Warren even more.
What are we going to... Okay, so where do we go from here? What's the point of that?
We have to get it. We have to inform as many people as we possibly can.
Do. And that's where we started this, right? How do you inform people in a way that you change their minds rather than just have that lovely feeling of being right?
All right, you're right there. But I mean, I'm not going to be like, hey, let me buy you a steak dinner so I can explain to you the law of demand. You know what I mean? It's like, I know supply and demand goes like this, 2 + 2 = 4. Why do I got to buy him a steak and apologize to show him math?
I don't know where you're getting that. I'm not saying anything like that, so I don't know where you're getting that.
I'm just screwing around, Rob, and I'm trying to get ratings here, all right? I have Kevin on my show. He's destroying our ratings. No, but I mean, see, you know, I get your point. Go ahead, Mike. I know you want to say something, but Robin's arguments are valid. They're great arguments. I'm just trying to taking them apart. Go ahead, Mike. Whose side are you on here? Clearly, you're on my side. I have a Mets hat on today. Go.
The Mets are terrible, and Robin's right. I keep thinking about what you said earlier, how you destroy people, you destroy their arguments, and you hope at, you know, you just know at the end of the day, when they go home, they thought, well, maybe he's right. No, they don't do that. They think that you're an asshole. That's what they think, and that's all they care about.
Mike, they already thought I was an asshole before the whole conversation started.
So you didn't win any hearts and minds.
An asshole.
But that's an important point. That's a really important point. Because this, again, that speaks to the politics of identity. If you're using language and you're identified with positions that are themselves identified with people that I believe are wrong or bad, then I have already decided that whatever you say to me is coming from an asshole position, right? So the whole point of Blue Republican is that we're laying the ground so that nobody can put us in that pigeonhole of he's a conservative, he's a rightist, he's even a libertarian, you know, one of those weird freaky types, right?
Right.
That article that launched Blue Republican was so successful because I used the language of the people I was writing about, and I was writing to, and I didn't use any of those labels or vocabulary that are red flags for those people, right?
So give me some red flag words, and then Mike, we'll get to what you want to talk about. I'll go to you after this. But what are some of these red flag words that I shouldn't use? Is it like math or science or law of demand or economics or, like, you know, truth? What are the words that we should? Seriously though, no, I'm going to be honest. You make a great point here. I'm not making fun of you. I'm just poking fun at the argument. And but what are some of the words that we should keep in mind?
Well, so there's two sides to it, right? Like, use the vocabulary they do use, like social justice, and don't use things.
I can't use that word. I can't do it.
Well, it's your choice, man. Depends what you want.
It means nothing. It actually means nothing.
You're missing the point entirely. You're right. It has as many meanings as it does people who use it, right? But it signals something. It says, you can identify with me. I understand where you're coming from. I use the same language as you. It's signifying a cultural kind of connection. And you know, and I actually wrote an article called "Your Problem with Guns or Gays is Not Political," all about how most divides that we believe to be political are actually cultural. They come out of different experiences, having different kinds of friends who talk about different kinds of things, and you've got to bridge that gap. But it's really a cultural gap, not a political one. But we retrofit our politics to a cultural gap, right? So again, if you want to be successful, just understand that. Yeah, I mean, I can go on about this stuff forever, Will, obviously.
You're a very level-headed guy with good arguments. That's more I could say about anyone else.
You know what? I wouldn't even say they're arguments. I would just say I'm making observations and stating facts.
Okay, Robin, there's no negative connotation to the word argument, all right? Arguments are good things, very good things. Debate is a great thing. Only liberals dislike arguments. Like Kevin said, they run from them.
That's not true. You should see the religious conservatives that are in my audiences when I'm talking about the Constitution. They're every bit as dogmatic, some of them, as some of the hardcore progressives. And by the way, I've met libertarians who are every bit as dogmatic as...
No, look, Robin, I'm with you. Libertarians piss me off to no end. I would say that there's certainly a wing of libertarians, and we all know this, that are extremely dogmatic. It's Mises, it's Rothbard, and nothing else. Yes, no doubt about it. And the state is the boogeyman. Anything run by the state is bad.
Hey, Will, I gotta jump in. I'm gonna go over to Politics After Dark. I just sent the link in the chat, so anybody watching, everyone pop over there later. All right.
Make sure you talk badly about everybody.
All right, yeah. Fuck all of you, and have a good night.
See you, buddy. But Kevin, you want to jump in? I know you want to say something. You don't agree with anything I said. I'm stupid, but I'm still better looking than you, so there's that. But what did you want to jump in with? And I think Mike wants to go to the gold standard after this too.
First of all, being better looking doesn't matter when you have STDs because you're never going to hook up. Second of all, and I mean this from the bottom of my heart, Robin gets it, and y'all don't, and I'm totally being honest.
If you ever say y'all again, being from the Northeast, I'm going to smack you. So.
Well, there is no collective you. There's no you. There's no word you.
You could say, and everyone doesn't. Okay.
I guess I could have said that, yes. But, and everybody else doesn't get it. He's far more effective and, frankly, more important than the rest of us are. No, I'm being serious. You guys and me, well, I try not to, but you guys do, are preaching to the choir. We go out there and we say the same thing. We say what they want to hear. And we sit there and we tell people, be they conservatives or libertarians or whatever, what they want to hear. And how are we changing society? We're not. I mean, Robin's...
I don't know.
No, I'm being completely serious.
I get, but Kevin,
I get the same fucking people every day, and they come in here and they say, "Oh, I agree with you," and they like my comments and so forth. But that's not the people that we need to talk to. If you want to talk to somebody if you want to change minds, you got to do what Robin's doing. You actually have to reach out, and I absolutely believe that he's more important than any of us.
Okay, so are you and Robin going to go out for a steak dinner here? Because I'm getting a little uncomfortable.
Your host.
Robin, if Kevin asked you out, would you go out with him?
If he's buying the steak, I mean, I love a good steak.
You hear that, Kevin? You just got a date. Can he bring his Emmy with him if he keeps it in his pocketbook? Would that be?
You must have big pockets. That's all I can say.
Yeah.
Don't disparage the Emmy.
Ugh. So, but here's my point. Look, online, certainly in the Facebook community, I go after libertarians a lot more because they're incredibly dogmatic. I am not preaching to the choir. A lot of my posts will go after, say, hardcore libertarians. I think Mike's and Matt's do too, to an extent.
Yeah, I guess a lot of libertarians.
Right? I mean, I
get called a statist more than anyone else. So
I'm
not more than you, but a lot of times.
I get called a statist all the time.
Yeah.
How many times has a liberal actually said, "Geez, Will, you're right"?
No, I mean, I've convinced people that aren't dogmatically inclined, what I would call the drones, man, that just don't care about the truth. You don't
matter. You don't matter, Will. You're preaching to the choir. And seriously, you look like Burger King, and you got to get rid of that beard, and that's all that fucking matters.
All right, fine. I hate you, Mike. You engage with liberals sometimes. You and Carl Gibson. Go at it, and you just destroy his arguments. And Carl is a great guy. I mean, he is a nice fellow when you talk to him face to face. When he's on Facebook and his arguments are atrocious. I mean, they're awful. Do you think that you should, when you talk to Carl, be like, "Hey, Carl, you want to go to a pool party with me sometime? Maybe we could share strawberry orata or whatever, margarita, whatever they call those things."
Strawberry orita.
Yeah, strawberry orita together with an umbrella in it, and we could talk about how great Kevin is. Or do you feel it's more effective to go after their arguments to try to convince them?
Well, it's clearly not effective. I mean, that's the thing. I mean, Robin's right and Kevin's right. Yeah, I mean, it's fun. It's fun to be right. Don't get me wrong. I love destroying an argument or a debate logically. It's a great time. But Robin and Kevin are right. You know, you're not going to change it. Have I changed Carl's mind at all? He's still glued to that same position, and I've argued with him for 50 comments at a time. I've argued with him, and he's still running US Uncut, and he's still posting the same stuff. So where have those arguments with Carl gotten me? Carl has not changed his mind one bit. Robin has changed people's minds, and I admire that. That's why I wanted to bring Robin on here, because I noticed the Blue Republican movement, you know, during the 2012 election, and I thought what they were doing was amazing. I saw these liberals are coming on YouTube, making videos about how they were disappointed with Obama, and how many liberals do you see say they're disappointed with Obama? But Robin started a movement where people were making YouTube videos, switching over because they were disappointed, because he reached out to people and got them to change their mind, and I think that's impressive, because I haven't done much of that.
Okay, so you can go out with Kevin and Robin on their steak dinner adventure. You both can eat steak and talk about how you can warm the hearts of liberals.
Let me give you a little bit of love too, because you are having a hard time here now. Because you know, it isn't quite either or. There is, of course, a place for good logical argument, but when it works is when you've built the relationship, let's say with your lefty friend, and they've got to a point where they ask you for your opinion. When they ask you for an argument, or when they ask you for an idea or an opinion, then, and you take that as the way into your logical argument about the minimum wage or whatever, when they signal to you that they're ready for it, then that's when you deliver it. That's when the missile will get through. Right? But, you know, it's the paradigm, the commitment to the paradigm which is keeping out your logic is an emotional one, and that will only be broken down through trust, which, you know, as the building of trust, as say, and through a series of emotional experiences, which is why we have to do that emotional work. It's not the logic has no effect at all. You have to give them the logical argument that they're going to retrofit to their changed mind. They have to have that. We all need that too. But it's just like, you know, rather than 100% logic, 0% emotion, it's 85% emotion, 15% logic.
Right. No, I agree. I've seen it.
Go ahead, Kevin. 1 second.
Go ahead.
You mentioned Carl. Carl Gibson came on here. What did he do? He came on here, and when he left, what did you all say?
He's a nice guy.
He was a really nice guy.
Yeah, exactly. He was a nice guy. Everybody was sympathetic to him, at least personally, and he came on, and that was his goal for coming on here. It wasn't for him to be convinced of what we were saying. He wanted to convince us that he's a good guy, and because of that, we listened to him a little closer. That's what I mean, he's got a million fans on US Uncut. I mean, we don't agree with what he says, but he says it in a way that makes us listen.
Yeah, going off that point, I was actually going to add it to Mike. I mean, I've written entire articles debunking Carl that have gotten millions of hits and then hasn't convinced him. So I think the solution is I need to have Robin ghostwrite my articles.
Yeah, and he could make sure you don't put in all those nasty words that the libs aren't going to like. You know what I mean?
True.
Like,
no, I mean, honestly, I'm really glad we had Robin on tonight. I think there's a lot of interesting.
That's a good point because, and yes, Robin's arguments are good. I'll give him that because I've seen logical arguments fail firsthand. Again, I've had people say to me, "Do you have feelings?" As if the truth cares about how you feel. See, I adhere to the truth. I don't really care about someone else's feelings. I care solely what's true, and what's true is exogenous of one's own perception and their mind. And I think that a little bit of ridicule is necessary.
You should read more quantum mechanics if you believe that.
I do, and truth does exist, and you should maybe read more physics.
Truth exists, but you said independent of the mind. That's
most definitely. Metaphysics is what you should absolutely definitely read, not just quantum physics. But
I'm with you.
You know, but this is
that could be another show. Let's do it.
I know that could be another show. I mean, I love philosophy and I love mathematics, and things exist exogenous of the mind. I know that certain social policies have a negative effect. There's plenty of data that shows it. And when people just, my feelings dictate that I can't adhere to the truth. Well, screw you. I'm going to show it to you. I'm going to ridicule you. It's like somebody saying, oh, no, well, that wall right there, that doesn't exist because I don't feel like it exists. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to push them into the wall. And I'm going to go down, does the wall still not exist? As they're holding onto their nose. You guys can take them out. You can play cards with them and be like, please believe me that the wall exists. I'm going to flat out show them. They can either accept it or not. That's my point.
I think it's because Will's hat is backwards. That's why he's so uppity. Right.
But I don't know. I think Mike's with me. Mike, are you with me on that one? Can I get somebody on my side here? Has Robin done that good of a job?
Hey,
I'm just going to agree
because you're illiterate, Will. We're supposed to be wrapping up this show because we're not
going to say that
on Liberty.me, but you're so illiterate you can't even read.
No, I see the time. This is a good show, and we got things going on right now. But
why do we have to wrap it up? What the hell, Mike?
I'm only telling you what Mike's telling me.
I think Mike has kids or something. Isn't that weird?
Mike Reed?
Yeah, Mike Reed. I think he's got kids. He's in Canada.
You got to wrap it up.
He's in Canada, and they have like different rules up there. Probably there's like a curfew. Very statist in Canada. Probably has to be in bed soon. Black Hand will march into his house and make sure all his computer's off. But but I just want to say, Robin, thank you so much for coming on.
My pleasure, guys.
I just started following your page. It's excellent stuff. Your arguments are awesome, and you bring up great points. And I really hope you convince a lot of people. Let's be in touch. We'll have you on again.
We'd love to. You got it.
And follow the Blue Republican. Is there anything else you want people to look at?
So bluerepublican.org is our main site. I am now the communications director for a pack for Rand Paul, readyforrand.com.
Oh, very cool.
If you're interested in that. Again, that could be the content of another show too, I suppose. So yeah, no, that's good. That's pretty good. I know my archive is on Huffington Post as well. Most of it.
All right, and I just want to mention too, Rachel Mills' show, Politics After Dark, is coming on, or it's on now, and Grant is on that show. Her show will come on every Wednesday after ours, and Julie Borowski is having an event tomorrow, I believe. You can get Liberty.me. We'll have the link all over the place. You can't miss it. Kevin, that's not actually Kevin's house. That's his neighbor's. He actually lives in a tent outside. And that Emmy also isn't his. That's actually a toy for his son. And Maddie, thanks. Mike, thank you so much. Again, Robin, we'll be in touch. You'll come on again. Next time I'll have a better argument ready. I'll be ready for it. All right? All right. You can go off now, Mike. You can do whatever it is you got to do.
Good evening, gentlemen. Take care.
So long.
Thanks, Robin.
Good.
Can I start masturbating now, or?
Yeah. Nice.
We're actually still on because Mike hasn't cut off the show yet.
See, I'm not the only illiterate one. He doesn't see.
I don't know how to do it because we don't have any control.
Oh, he just left the group chat too.
Yeah.
By the way, let me just.
We're probably going to wait a few minutes and we'll get kicked off.
Can I tell you all what this is? A fan of our show won this Emmy. This is a real Emmy. A fan of our show also won the Emmy for SportsCenter. Y'all heard of SportsCenter?
What's y'all?
Y'all. This is the Emmy for winning for SportsCenter.
Get out of here.
Not kidding.
A fan of this show.
So it's
a
an
fan of
ESPY.
our show.
It's ESPY.
No, this was an actual Emmy. This was not a stupid ESPY of ESPN. This was an Emmy.
Who is it?
I can't say her name, but she's a fan of the show.
Is she like you the most?
Is it Linda Cohn?
I don't even know who Linda Cohn is.
Mike, you know who she is, right?
Yeah, I know who Linda Cohn is.
Yeah, how do you not know who Linda Cohn is?
It doesn't matter. So
it doesn't matter.
So she texted me and said that she loved the show and she thought it would be hilarious if I had the Emmy next to me during the show.
You were so full of shit.
No, I'm not.
Show the engraving. Show the engraving. What is the engraving?
All right. Well, are we off or not? I don't want to.
We're still on.
All right. When we're off, show us the engraving.
I will show you and I'll tell you her name. But the point is that when she texted me and said, I thought it'd be funny if the Emmy was on the show with you during the podcast. And so a day I wasn't here, she came to the house and put it on the wood pile outside my house.
Get out of here.
You mean the mansion? You came to the mansion, right?
Yeah, my gigantic estate.
Yeah.
And I came home and there's a fucking Emmy on the wood pile outside my front door. And I was like, what the fuck? True story. Honest to God.
Come on, Kevin. There's got to be something. She's not a fan of the show. This has got to be made up.
Yes, I'm not kidding.
We have about 2 fans.
Kevin, text me
where
it is.
Does anybody have Mike Reed's number so we can text him and ask him how to end this thing?
No, but you can.
One of us we want to end this so we can know who this Emmy winner is.
Yeah, I know. That's what I want to know.
I know.
We can't show because we don't have any control over the thing.
We should
Where do I live? Y'all know where I live. What state do I live in?
Yeah, Connecticut.
Yeah, you do live where the mothership lives.
I know.
Where is ESPN located?
Yeah, I know.
Yes, it's in Bristol.
Connecticut. That's exactly it.
And you're in Greenwich.
Not in Greenwich.
Connecticut's like the size of my thumb.
Yeah, so be back in like 5 minutes.
He said he would.
Right.
Well, we're still on air, so there's still people watching.
Are we really still on air?
Yeah.
Well, let's keep
we're
talking.
still.
First of all, Will, you did a horrible job tonight. I mean, it was fucking.
Yeah, you did.
pathetic.
It was terrible.
I hate you guys. Shut up.
Seriously, that former Democrat kicked your ass.
It was entertaining. What are you talking about?
Was
You
it
make a good point.
entertaining?
I had to take. You guys are all kissing his ass. Somebody has to take the opposite viewpoint. Kevin, your lips are still attached to Robin's ass.
That should tell you how bad your hosting ability is.
He's dude. He's a great guy. He's perfect.
Just like you said about Carl Gibson.
But he's not a mindless drone.
I think I'm going to be a liberal. That's what you said after Carl Gibson left the show.
No, that guy was great. I
he
mean,
was great.
funny, has a good sense of humor. You know, there's a lot of people that can't handle our humor.
But that's why he has a following and you don't, because you are absolutely just astonishingly bad at what you do.
Look, I mean, do you see Thomas Sowell out there writing all fluff pieces? You know how many minds he's changed? Come on. Milton Friedman?
You think
Yeah, they do though. They do that.
People on
Don't
the left have
start,
heard of
Mike.
Thomas Sowell?
No, I mean, like, the minds, Thomas Sowell has changed. People that are looking for information. I don't know how many liberals have read his books. I'm assuming more liberals have read your books, Kevin.
Zero. Nobody's read Thomas Sowell. Nobody.
You have, just because you don't read doesn't mean everybody doesn't read.
First of all, you couldn't even read tonight. On air, you were like reading the wrong word. What were you saying at the beginning?
That was, he invited his friend Drew. It's
It
a
wasn't
small